Relax, relax, relax. We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. And do not forget to ring the notification bell. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls. And if you want to support this Rebel Outpost, college football's true Rebel Outpost, with a donation to help us keep the lights on and grow the channel, just hit that $ where you make your comment, and I will get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Notre Dame Fighting Irish fans, relax. I have been getting hit hard on X. Holy smokes. Notre Dame, you are an incredible football program, an incredible athletic department, massive brand, just the history of Notre Dame, the value of Notre Dame. It's elite. It's at the top. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Yes, you are football independence. Yes, there's not many that can do that. There's not many that want to try, but there's not many that can do that. But in this case, USC's got the better cards. USC's got the better cards. They just do. And you know that. And that's why the reporting out of the Los Angeles Times should not surprise anybody. Man, I got a lot of Irish. I got a lot of Notre Dame Irish. The fans are so upset with me. My goodness. They're calling me little man hate. Nobody has ever called me little man before. Nobody has ever called the fat guy from Minnesota little man hate before. And again, a lot of this, we all know Notre Dame wants to keep their football independence. And the scheduling is always a difficult task. It's always difficult, even for an incredible, valuable program like Notre Dame. They've been able to make it work. They've got NBC going on since the early 90s. Notre Dame has been able to make it work. They got a nice little deal with Clemson for the next 12 years or so, something like that. They have this 5-game scheduling with the ACC that might be falling down here in a little bit. We'll talk about that. They've been able to make it work. Like I've said before, I don't think it's going to be the money. It's not going to be the playoff access. The walls that are truly closing down on Notre Dame is the slip sliding of the ACC. What is really the walls are closing down on Notre Dame is their Olympic non-revenue sports, because it is getting hotter and hotter and hotter and more difficult for Notre Dame to be able to compete at the highest levels in those sports, because the ACC itself is finding it more difficult to compete at the highest levels in those sports. That is what is the walls that are closing down at Notre Dame. And then you've got this silo talk. What if it goes to the extreme silo talk? What if the SEC and Big Ten expand again? What if they poach the ACC? And I think all that is going to happen here at Peek Around the Corner. And then you've got the Heather Dinich article this morning. Heather Dinich article, and then the LA Times. Kind of tells you a story, doesn't it? I think it does. It might be a much larger story brewing here in college football. We're going to go over all of that. I welcome in everybody. I appreciate y'all coming in. But again, Notre Dame, this is not a shot at... This is not really a shot at Notre Dame. It's really not. It isn't. I'm not a Notre Dame hater. It sounds like I am. I'm not. I constantly say Notre Dame, one of the top football programs, university brands. I'm Irish. My family is the Rooney family. We're about 5th or 6th cousins from the Rooney family that own the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're somehow connected. I'm Irish. Used to be Catholic. Used to sing in a little band in the Catholic Church for almost a decade. Not a choir. It was a little band. We were kind of out there. Sang at many, many funerals and weddings in the Catholic Church. I've got nothing against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Nothing. I sometimes root for them on the football field. But in some cases, they don't have the better hand. And they don't in this case. They don't. And what is not helping Notre Dame, stuff that is beyond their control, isn't going their way. It's not going their way. Notre Dame wants that score act to pass more than anybody else. Now, the Big Ten does, the SEC does, but Notre Dame more than anybody. Notre Dame, what worries Notre Dame the most, when the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, when the leprechaun puts his head on that cold pillow when he's going to sleep at night, Notre Dame is worried about the ACC. They were not worried about the ACC in 2012, 2014, 2016, 2018, 2020. Got a little word in 22, got a whole lot word in 24, and now at a stricken panic time for Notre Dame in 2026. They're worried about the ACC. And you can look at what they're doing with their football scheduling. And they don't know what the future is going to be. None of us do. None of us do, right? They know they're always going to have playoff access. Not a problem. Their relationship with NBC is good as long as they can string together a good enough home scheduling, good enough NBC, Peacock, primetime scheduling. As long as they can produce well enough for the boosters, Notre Dame's going to be fine. Playoff access, not a problem. Tier 1 football, not a problem. Olympic sports non-revenue, big problem. Massive problem. And Bavakwa, and before him, Swarbrick, has told you in public and has told a lot of people in private, allegedly, not allegedly, that for them to maintain football independence, they need to be able to park their sports in a place that they can compete at the highest levels. And there is big questioning going on in South Bend. Big questioning going on in South Bend if they can maintain their sports in the ACC. That is why, and I don't want to put words in anybody's mouths. I don't want to put words in MBM's mouth, Rich Austin's mouth, Dr. Fakin's mouth. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouths, including Pete Sampson and Scott Docterman. But if you go back and read their bold predictions for 2026, when they both predicted that Notre Dame would change their 5-game football scheduling from the ACC to the Big Ten, and both Scott Docterman and Pete Sampson on the same day in the same publication predicted that Notre Dame would both move their sponsored sports out of the ACC. You wonder, and this is just speculation, we're going to go back to this. This is going to be our main story, back half, end of the monologue. But you got to think, you got to wonder, is this ongoing negotiations between USC and Notre Dame something bigger? Something bigger than just Notre Dame and USC. You can understand why Notre Dame would want this USC game late in the season. And you can understand USC's positioning that they want it early in the season. They want it very early in the season. You can understand both positions. Can there be a compromise? They're at home games. At Notre Dame, it's later in the season, but USC is early in the season. But again, USC doesn't need a bluff. They can walk. USC can walk away from the table a lot easier than Notre Dame. Again, not a shot at Notre Dame. It isn't. It's a shot at the situation that Notre Dame is in, and it doesn't really have much to do with them, but outside of their control. It's easier for USC just to walk away. They're going to get paid their money. USC is going to have very difficult schedules in the future. And there's going to be some years where it's going to be a little bit lighter for USC. But either way, Notre Dame is going to get paid mega bucks. USC from day one on July 1st, 2024, USC was a fully invested member of the Big Ten. They get their full cut of the Big Ten network money. And they're loving the Big Ten network much better than the Pac-12 network. And of course, the Big Ten is going to be going in their next media rights negotiations. Woo! So USC can walk away from the table. Now, USC would love to keep this Notre Dame game on the docket. It helps fill up their big Los Angeles Coliseum stadium. Notre Dame has an easier time filling up their stadium. But again, USC can walk much easier than Notre Dame. USC holds the better cards than Notre Dame. So to get back to my earlier speculation, on the ongoing negotiations between Notre Dame and USC, is this part of a much larger story? For those who believe that eventually Notre Dame is going to leave their football independence and join the Big Ten, it's either going to go one or two ways. It could go one way where Notre Dame just goes cold turkey on their football independence and they join the Big Ten fully in all sports. Football, all their sponsored sports, their men's hockey is already in the Big Ten Men's Hockey Conference. Or the second option, the second scenario, when Notre Dame says to the Big Ten, well, we would first like to try having 5 games against the Big Ten, a scheduling agreement. We would leave the ACC. We would play you in 5 games, but we would move all of our sports into the Big Ten, except for we remain a quasi-football independent program. Either A or B, one or two. It's happening in either way, if it happens at all. And I think it does happen eventually. So if you believe that the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in the Big Ten, and the Big Ten were acquiesced and they just want to get Notre Dame content on the Big Ten network when it comes to this other sponsor sports, and they just want Notre Dame content when it comes to home Big Ten games, it's going to be 2 or 3 football games in the Big Ten football stadium against Notre Dame. And NBC is going to be happy, and then NBC might bid on the Big Ten a whole lot of money in the next negotiations. If that is the way that Notre Dame would join the Big Ten, then this could be playing a part in it. Because if Notre Dame, and again, I got a feeling that Notre Dame and the Big Ten has discussed this scenario. And I got a feeling that national reporters believe that as well. And I got a feeling that Scott Dochterman and Pete Sampson believe that as well. That's why they're bold predictions. If this were to happen, it's a little tricky, right? It's a little tricky. You've got 5 football games that Notre Dame would want to play against the Big Ten. But they want to make sure that they got tent poles in those 5 games. Games that they know the Notre Dame Fighting Irish fans are going to want to come to. Big games on NBC or Fox, whatever, if it's a game against the Big Ten state in the Big Ten stadium. USC would be one of those tent poles that Notre Dame would want and love and really need to have. Notre Dame's got a lot of fans out in California. They want to make trips out to California. They want to play Southern California. They got donors in California. So that could be one tent pole. And then there could be another tent pole. Probably not Michigan, but maybe Michigan State would be the other tent pole. Or maybe Purdue. Or maybe Northwestern. I don't know. But something that Notre Dame could say, okay, those are 2 games, and then the other 3 games rotate around the Big Ten Conference year in and year out. Could be part of it. This all could be playing a part of it. And again, there's another part to that. If the discussions are ongoing, if they are, and I think they are, I don't think it's a chalk that it happens, but I think the conversations are going on. And of course, I'm totally against it from happening, but who cares what I think? If swinging the 5-game scheduling with the Big Ten, the Notre Dame's going to have to figure out, and the Big Ten's going to have to figure out, when are these 5 games played every year? Notre Dame's going to be playing Navy. Notre Dame probably going to be figuring out how to play Stanford once in a while. Notre Dame's going to be playing Clemson continuously. And then they're going to throw in a few other games. But are these 5 games early in the season, in the middle of the season, late in the season? The Big Ten teams are probably going to want more early than late because they want to focus on their conference race, conference games later in the season. But again, if this is going to truly happen, if there is more to the story, not just the USC Notre Dame negotiations, but if the door is open on both sides, Notre Dame in the Big Ten, and I hope the Big Ten hasn't opened the door, but if it's open on both sides, the first thing you'd probably want to nail down is, all right, if we're going to do this, we need USC on that 5-game Big Ten schedule. And then we got to know, when is that game going to be played year in and year out? USC would be a permanent rival for Notre Dame in that 5-game Big Ten schedule. And then you figure out the rest. Just a thought. We're just speculating here. But again, according to the Los Angeles Times, Notre Dame and USC ongoing talks, negotiations to get it done, non-conference scheduling between the 2 behemoths, between the 2 rivals. It just so happens when it comes to this card game, this particular card game, I'm not talking about the card game if those 2 teams played each other right now. I would have Notre Dame about a touchdown favorite. But in this card game of trying to get a scheduling agreement together between those 2 schools, or a bigger picture, Notre Dame and the Big Ten, USC has got the advantage. They've got the better cards. Especially if you read Heather Dinich's article of this morning. And we're going to get into that. We did episode 499 talking about the Heather Dinich article. We've got a lot to get to today, guys. A beautiful night for PATC college footballs. Peek around the corner. You and I chopping it up, talking college football. We are going to do the I Do Declare update. We are going to do the spotlight on the West Virginia Mountaineers. Quarterback battle going on in Morgantown. A superstar has arrived. In Morgantown. We're talking about Cam Cook. I got him rated as one of the top 12 running backs in the nation, Mr. Cam Cook. So we're going to be talking West Virginia Mountaineers spotlight. I Do Declare update. We got the Heather Dinich article. We've got the LA Times article. And we got whatever you guys want to talk about in college football. Welcome on in, everybody. I appreciate it. We've got Mohr after dark. He would not know what a Zamboni is if it ran him over. $5 holla. $5 holla. Greg is so cold. that his only natural predator is the Zamboni. Holy smokes. Another shot. Mohr after dark. How close are we to college football week 0? We're getting closer and closer every day. Mohr after dark is running out of time. Because once the games begin, you're not going to hear Mohr after dark. You're not going to see him taking shots at Greg the Cooler, Greg the Gold. You're not going to see him taking shots at Greg the Gold, the godfather of college football picks against the spread. It ain't going to happen. So get your shots in now. And I'm not just talking to Mohr. I'm talking to the rest of you PATC Einsteins who sit there and look at my below 500 batting average winning percentage against the spread over the last 4 years. It ain't going to. The 5th year, again, head coaches used to have 5 years to turn it around. Well, in college football YouTube channel, I got 5 years to get my picks against the spread worthwhile. This is it. This is the 5th year. Thank you, Mohr After Dark. Thank you for the $5 holler. I appreciate it. I don't know. Is there a problem with the stream audio? Is anybody having problems with me? Hopefully not. We've got a 5 gifted memberships from the incredible edible Bill G. Holy smokes. The Oklahoma State Cowboy has just given a gifted membership to Rich Austin, Mr. Ute, to D5 Terps, the Terrapin, Andrew Bennett, Abna Sloan, and MV99. Thank you, Bill G. Thank you for your incredible generosity. We've already got a thanks from D5 Terps. Thank you, Mr. Terrapin. I appreciate it. All of you, and I'm not missing any of you. All 5 of you are officially knighted, cloak and dagger. Go to our library of episodes. Watch all the episodes. Episode 499 just dropped today, including early peak cloak and dagger members only episodes. Go check them out. The audio's clear. Good. I'm good with the audio. I am good. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. The other Gygax, they need a big year. It's not been great in Morgantown. We are going to go over the West Virginia Mountaineers spotlight. Esmus talks. Where is your comment? It was early in the program. Something about how I need to change something. In the I Do Declare competition. I'm trying to find it. Esmus talks. 20th. Greg, fix my I Do Declare. 20th. What does 20th mean? Okay. Esmus talks. Help me out here. Are you still in the chat room? I'm trying to find Esmus Talks predictions here. Esmus Talks. I don't see any yet. I do not see any yet. There it is. Rutgers finished 12th or higher in the Big Ten. I'm giving you a valuation of 3 points. Is that the one you have problems with? Three-loss team wins the Natty. Esmus Talks. I gave you a 5-point evaluation. I just updated that. That has been booked. And that's it. I got two of yours. 3-loss team wins the Natty, 5-point valuation. That's number 46. And then I got you with the number 30. Rutgers finished 12 or higher in the Big Ten, evaluation of 3. If I missed something, if I screwed one of those up, Esmus Talks, first of all, I apologize. Second of all, let me know so I can fix it. Thank you so much, Bill G. I tell you, thank you so much for your generosity. Really, honestly, you've done so much for this program to help us keep the lights on, to do what we can do here. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Cowboy. Appreciate it. Appreciate it very much. Very humbled. The little general and I are very, very humbled. We got breaking news. Once again, we got breaking news. I spend all day working on a live program. Ask the little general. Ask the little general. Ask the little general. Holy smokes. Breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. Nobody go away. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. We've got... massive breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. Massive breaking news. Holy smokes. We're going to have to open up the phone lines. This program's going to go a while. The College Sports Commission has won its arbitration case against Nebraska. Neutral arbitrator affirms College Sports Commission's application of settlement rules in Play 5 Nebraska matter. A neutral arbitrator has issued a final binding decision affirming the College Sports Commission application of the rules in connection with third-party NIL agreements between Play 5 and student athletes at the University of Nebraska. The neutral arbitrator found that the CSC properly determined that Play 5 is an associated entity and properly determined not to clear the NIL deals at issued based on a lack of valid business purpose, including a violation of a rule against warehousing NIL rights. Upon the completion of the arbitration process, the impacted student athletes are now able to submit revised third-party NIL deals that comply with the rules of the CSC's review. We are pleased with the arbitrated decision to affirm the CSC fact-based application of the rules. Brian Seeley, CEO of College Sports Commission. This process shows the system is working as intended. A decision was challenged. A neutral arbitrator assessed the facts to form a final decision. Wow. So that means that with Play 5 and Learfield and any other of these entities, those NIL deals that they make, they're going to have to comply with the rules. They're going to have to go through NIL Go. And there has been a lot of money promised to a lot of athletes. Wow. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. I am trying to see if there's any more reporting on this. We've got massive breaking news. Massive breaking news. Massive. On a grand scale, ladies and gentlemen, hold on. It's a sweeping win for the CSC on the attached 3 points. MMR is an associated entities. Deals didn't meet valid business purpose definition, and warehousing of NIL rights is prohibited. So you can't just pay somebody $2 million or have an agreement and then say, but we don't really have to figure out what you need to do with marketing and branding, this true NIL business that you've got to do as a student athlete. We'll worry about that later. We really do not have to write that in. We're going to warehouse that. You are part of the branding value of whatever we're doing at Playfly or whatever company. This could be Adidas or anything, I believe. So, multimedia rights. MMR. Playfly as Nebraska multimedia rights partner and a purported sponsor of the deal at issue meets the definition of an associated entity under the settlement rules. The deals did not satisfy the valid business purpose rule as they did not include goods or services offered to the general public for profit. The deals did not include the direct activation of student athletes' NIL rights as required by the rules and instead amounted to warehousing. In other words, there was no activity, there was no action. It was just not for for-profit services. So what does that mean? What does that mean? It means that the CSC has just for now has just regained some strength here. This College Sports Commission, in which all the schools we created this thing. We created the Deloitte clearinghouse. We created the NIL goal as part of the House settlement. The CSC in the first major arbitration case won. The arbiters said, according to the settlement, the House settlement with the judge and the lawyers involved in the settlement, that the CSE was acting in accordance to the settlement. Now, again, there's going to be other suits cast saying this is against the student, against the player's rights, whatever. I mean, there's still going to be cases coming on in. But this Nebraska 18, this particular one, which represented a lot of people were hoping that Nebraska 18 were going to win. A lot of agents, a lot of players were hoping that the Nebraska 18 was going to win this case, but they did not. They did not. These multimedia rights partnerships that these schools have, when we used to call it third tier rights. Learfield, Playfly. You're going to have to, those deals that were denied by CSC, they're going to stay denied. A lot of them are going to, CSC won the case. Now, does that give more momentum? Somehow, some way? Probably not. To get the SCORE Act passed? Does that provide momentum or anti-momentum? Does that put a stop, a little bit of a stop? You know that the SEC is going to have those meetings in late May. And they're part of the meetings are going to be talking about the college football playoff format, but they're also going to be talking about the silo. Does that put a little bit of pause in all those talks? Where the Southeastern Conference can tell themselves, look, the CSC is actually working. It hasn't been shot down by an arbitrator. There's going to be more cases, and that's how it's supposed to work. But this big one where an MMR is determined to be an associated entity, which means you can't be just warehousing these rights. You can't be making these big deals. It's got to be just like every other business. It's got to be a deal that is considered a true NIL deal, a for-profit business, a for-profit business task of the student athlete to do for that private business. Very interesting. Very interesting. Now again, in the NBA, in the NFL, when it comes to the collective bargaining agreement, those professional players in those CBAs, they can't just sign an NIL agreement that really is not an NIL agreement. It's against the rules. You cannot sign an NIL agreement that is more like a player inducement agreement, where it's an end around a contract, where it's used as an end around a salary cap. Khalil Leonard, the Los Angeles Clippers NBA player, the owner of the Los Angeles Clippers, owns another business, and they offered Leonard all millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars in an NIL deal, and Leonard didn't do anything for the money. The NBA got word of it. There's an investigation going on. You can't. So there is no wild, wild west when it comes to NIL and a CBA. Now, again, the student athletes are not under a CBA. So they're under this, right now, this House settlement that has not been codified yet. So right now, the arbitration case went against the Nebraska 18. But again, there's going to be more suits that follow, and we shall see what happens. If I would have had to put my money in the middle of the table, I probably would have said CSC is going to lose, right? But they did not. They won the case. At least right now, the College Sports Commission, right now, it could all change. I mean, there's a lot more suits coming down the road. But for right now, the CSC has won some credibility because they interpreted the settlement correctly, according to an independent arbitrator. The precedent has been set. Multimedia rights companies going to have to be like everybody else. Those NIL deals that got to come in at a certain scale. It can't be crazy. All right. Big breaking news. Big breaking news. My goodness. House settlement about to get blown up. Plaintiffs didn't agree to this. No, but they did agree to this, actually, Jose. They agreed to this arbitration process. If there's a disagreement, it goes to an independent arbitrator. And it happened. And they lost. Now, again, why is there a settlement in which the parties cannot agree on what the settlement actually means? Is just a crazy concept to me. But I guess this happens quite often. The interpretation of the House lawyers were wrong in what the House settlement meant, according to an independent arbitrator. And that is part of the settlement. The arbitration process is part of the settlement. So I don't know. The precedent has been set. Very interesting. Very interesting. Big breaking news. Massive breaking news. My goodness. Okay, we're going to go on to the regular part of our show. But keep me informed. Keep your head on a swivel. Let me know other reporting that's going out on this and reactions. What are the reactions to this? Nebraska 18 lost. The CSC won. And there was a lot of student athletes out there. Let me say this before we go on to anything else. There is a lot of student athletes out there who decided to play for School A. This guy decided to play for School B. This guy decided to play for School C because of the money that was promised to them through these NIL deals, through play fly, for one example. And now these players are going, I ain't getting that money that they promised me. I'm not getting that money. I'm not. So, the transfer window's closed, and it's going to be a lot of drama out there. A lot of drama once again in college football. We'll get back to that, but we got a lot to cover tonight. We've got a lot to cover, and we've got ourselves a $5 holler, and I do declare. And I do declare. Larry Andrick, I do declare that West Virginia will make a bowl game. Wow, a bowl game. That means they go 6-6 or maybe 5-7 and they squeeze on in. And then Larry Andrick comes in again with another super chat. Another I do declare. Larry is putting it all on the Mountaineers. Putting it all on the Mountaineers. And we are going to do the West Virginia spotlight right now. Larry Andrick with another $5 holler. I do declare that West Virginia will win at least 8 games. Now, we do have an I do declare prediction from Daniel Gygax, who says West Virginia is going to win 8 games exactly. So this is going to be a little bit lower valuation because it's much harder to declare an exact number. But we're going to book this in, Larry Andrick. Winning at least 8 games is probably going to be a 3 or 4. And West Virginia making a bowl game is going to be a 1 or a 2 in the valuations. Thank you, Larry. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you so very much. Good luck to you, Larry. If I'm rooting for anybody in the PATC family to win the I Do Declare World Championship, it is Ryan Willie, the Evil Badger, and it is Larry Andrick, the West Virginia legendary Mountaineer. You know what? I'm predicting you two to battle it out at the end. Thank you, Larry. Very much appreciate it, sir. Thank you very much. Very kind. Okay. Greg just iced West Virginia. Okay, let's we're gonna have to skip the roll call because bam, breaking news. So we're gonna have to skip the roll call. I do want to thank everybody for coming on in. I appreciate it. This ruling will greatly affect the Big Ten. Interesting. What does it affect a conference more than another? Very interesting. Very interesting. UCLA will drop out of the top 25 recruiting with this ruling. Now, again, this is not a ruling against big donors or big companies. In general, this is a ruling against, you can't just warehouse your NIL deal. And if you are a Playfly, if you are a multimedia rights company, in which every one of these schools have one of those in their association, every one of them is using one of them. Every school has a multimedia rights third tier that does your coach's radio show, that does your radio shows, a whole bunch of things that they do for you. Your deal with your player has got to be a true NIL deal, according to whatever CSC says it is. You do not get an out for being an MMR. You do not get an out on this. You got to go through the NIL Go process. I don't know if that affects the. I don't. I don't think I don't I don't think this would affect any conference more than another. I could be wrong. I could be naive. Maybe I'm not thinking of it properly. Okay, let's go to the West Virginia Mountaineers. West Virginia Mountaineers spotlight. Holy smokes. Morgantown, a little bit more excited this year in year 2 of Rich Rod versus year 1. Last year, we all knew it was going to be chaos. You know, it'd be like drinking water out of a fire hose for Rich Rod and the program. This year, maybe a little bit more stability. Michael Hawkins Jr., transferred from Oklahoma. Career stats, 2 years out of Oklahoma. Did not play all that much. 950 yards passing, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 61.9 completion percentage, 144.2 quarterback ratings, 262 yards rushing, 3.9 average per rush, 1 rushing touchdown. An athletic dude. He's got the measurables to be a big-time quarterback in college football. Did not play much. If you look at the ratio between passing yards and rushing yards, not all what you'd probably want to see, but again, very mobile quarterback, tough quarterback, athletic quarterback, big-time high school recruit for Oklahoma, transfers to West Virginia, and there is a quarterback battle going on. I would give the slight edge to Michael Hawkins. But again, West Virginia Mountaineers saw Scotty Fox play. They saw him mature in front of their eyes. They saw him getting better in front of their eyes. And to be honest with you, Scotty Fox in 1 year at West Virginia has played double as much as Michael Hawkins played 2 years at Oklahoma. Scotty Fox, 2025 stats, 1 year, 1,200 yards passing, 7 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 59.4 completion percentage, 129.4 quarterback rating. Now, again, Scotty Fox improved during the year, had a difficult start of the year, but then again, he was a true freshman. So, Mountaineers. The Mountaineers in the chat. Who's going to win this quarterback battle? Or is it going to be a Rich Rod dual quarterback situation where both are going to play to begin the season? Both are going to play at the beginning of the season, and we'll see who wins out as the season goes on. Let me know, Mountaineer fans in the chat room. What we do know, we may not be sure who QB1 is for the West Virginia Mountaineers, but we do know who RB1 is, Cam Cook, the transfer from Jacksonville State. Look at these numbers. Earlier this spring, PATC did a ranking of the top 12 running backs in the country. Cam Cook was one of the 12. Come on, Jacksonville State had not played Power 4 football yet. It does not matter. Watch his tape. Watch his toughness. Watch his durability. Watch what he can do. He can do a lot of things. Cam Cook, 1,659 yards rushing, 5.6 average per rush, 16 rushing touchdowns. They gave him the ball in the red zone. But not only that, he caught 30 more balls, 30 receptions, 286 yards receiving, 9.5 average per reception. Holy smokes. That's almost 2,000 yards combined, over 1,900 yards. The line of scrimmage, Cam Cook, Jacksonville State, and you know Rich Rod had Cam Cook 2 years ago, and now he's at Jacksonville State, and now Cam Cook has transferred to West Virginia. They got themselves the stud. They got themselves the superstar. West Virginia is going to have to run that football. Run that football. But the wide receiver position, I've got some questions. Cam was at Oklahoma at TCU. Let me put it this way. Cam Cook got his opportunity at Jacksonville State and was absolutely incredible. I mean, last year, phenomenal season. I put up Malachi Thompson. Going through a deep dive, this is the guy that I wanted to spotlight. Coming out of Nitro, West Virginia. Nitro high school football team. In 2023, he had an incredible year. In 2024, he had an incredible year. We're talking over 1,200 yards receiving. This guy, he was not just, did not just have 1 year in high school. He was a dominant high school player. He won the Randy Moss Award. Malachi Thompson. Now, what do you expect from him? True freshman season? I don't know. There's opportunities there. There's opportunities. But again, I don't know. I just wanted to highlight them. I want a lot of you outside of West Virginia football. Again, you've never heard of Malachi Thompson. He was a mid 3-star recruit. But I just wanted you to hear the name Malachi Thompson because, a lot of people in Morgantown are rooting for this kid. Nitro, West Virginia, Malachi Thompson. Ezekiel Durham Campbell. Ezekiel Durham Campbell. 2025 stats. Defensive lineman. 24 solo tackles. 42 combination tackles. That's assisted tackles and solo tackles. So 42 combo tackles. 8 tackle for losses. And 5.5 sacks. 5.5 sacks. He was in the portal. Coastal Carolina. In West Virginia, they got him. And I remember the day that they got him. I can't tell you the date, but I remember the day that they got him in the portal. And the Mountaineer fans and the beat writers at West Virginia, they were very excited, and they should be. He can play a lot of different positions on the defensive line. That's what I read. He's not just a down lineman, 1, 2, 3, 5. He can do it all. 1, 3, 5, I mean. He can play a little bit, probably even, interior, inside, rush in. He's a little bit of everything. Interesting pickup. For the West Virginia Mountaineers. And again, Rich Rod went in the portal a lot again last year. And Rich Rod's got they turned over the roster again. West Virginia football schedule. Coastal Carolina, and the first, they play Virginia, by the way, September 19th. And we have talked about that game when we did the spotlight on Virginia. We'll get a good taste of where the Cavaliers are. We'll get a good taste of where the Mountaineers are on September 19th. Before the Big 12 season begins. And then you've got that Morgantown home game against the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Drew Mestemaker, Caleb Hawkins, Wyatt Young versus Hawkins, Scotty Fox, Cam Cook. The game will be at Morgantown, West Virginia, Oklahoma State, and then West Virginia goes on the road. First road Big 12 game against Iowa State, at home against Arizona, at home against Cincinnati, on the road against TCU, on the road against Texas Tech, at home against Kansas, at home against Houston, and on the road against the Utah Utes. So they play Utah, right? They play Utah. They play Texas Tech. So right off the bat, they're playing Arizona, Oklahoma State. They don't have an easy Big 12 schedule. It could have been easier for them. So they do have a challenge on their hands. Again, you would think the goal for West Virginia is to make it to a bowl game this year, right? That's got to be the goal. This is second year under Rich Rod. Second year under Rich Rod. Can he get to 6-6? Let me know in the comments section if he can get to 6-6. These are my thoughts on West Virginia. Of course, the quarterback play is going to be very important. The offensive line at West Virginia was a big disappointment. They got a few guys in the portal. And again, we're going to expand on every one of these teams in June and July, and then our final predictions in August. This is just a spotlight on a few of their players' football schedule. But supposedly, the people in Morgantown believe that this offensive line is going to be better. Better than it was last year. Yes, I did. I did cover the Nebraska arbitration. But we're going to talk about it again. We're going to let people have a phone call on it. We did talk about it when it was breaking news. So give us a call if a super chat comes in, and if we're discussing, and if the super chat's about the Nebraska arbitration case, we'll talk about it. But we'll get back to it again here. Big breaking news. CSC wins the case. Wow. Getting back to West Virginia. Again, the quarterback position is always important, right? But, I got a feeling that the quarterback position at West Virginia is probably a little bit more important than other schools. The way that Rich Rod runs that offense. They lean on their quarterback. They lean on that quarterback more than others. I've got West Virginia at number 11. And I'm going to tell you the reason why I could not bump up West Virginia higher. Again, when we went over the order of finish prediction of the Big 12 earlier, I explained why I had West Virginia at number 11. I also said I had them in the same batch with Kansas, Arizona State, and Baylor. To me, Cincinnati, UCF, Iowa State, and Colorado are there in their separate batch. Kansas, West Virginia, Arizona State, and Baylor are in their separate batch. I'm a little surprised that I had Baylor at number 9, to be honest with you. But, again, these are my thoughts. I do not know who West Virginia's quarterback is going to be. Overall, Scotty Fox, he survived. He improved at the end of the season. But I really don't know who the true Scotty Fox is. I don't. You should see him improve this year, but I really don't know. And I don't know about Michael Hawkins. I can tell you, I watched him at Oklahoma. The short time that he did play, I watched him. He got the start early in the season a couple of years ago. And that game was a big game. I can't remember. I watched Michael Hawkins play. He was a freshman, right? He was a true freshman. when he got that start. But I don't know. The question marks around the quarterback position. I can understand people being optimistic about Michael Hawkins. I was optimistic about Nico Marchio. I can understand that. But, DJ Legway, man, I got to see more out of him, right? Right? I mean, but again, he's played. I kind of know, I believe I know the type of player he is. I think he's average. I think he's mid, to be honest with you. But I don't know about Hawkins and Fox. That's the main reason why I have West Virginia at number 11. That secondary the last couple of years, sketchy. The offensive line, really sketchy last year. West Virginia's got a lot of questions to answer. I think they're going to be better than they were last year, a little bit better. Again, it was a massive roster change again under Rich Rod. Now, West Virginia is one of those teams in one of those years where I think we're going to know right away. I think we're going to know right away. In other words, when West Virginia plays Oklahoma State on September 19th, we're going to know if Rich Rod has settled in on a QB1. And we're going to see if that quarterback can run that Rich Rod offense. And if it's smooth and Cam Cook is getting the holes to run and that quarterback's getting the time and that wide receiver group that I really don't think has a wide receiver one right now. If somebody pops, you can understand. If I think we're going to know. Either way, we're going to know on September 19th. I think we're going to be able to make a quicker judgment on West Virginia this year, much more than last year when it was Rich Rod's first year coming back. Put down your comments in the comment section below the video. Let me know. RIP Golden Blue guy, Golden Blue dude. Yep. Yeah, every early April, I get a twinge in my heart on that guy. Yep. West Virginia goes 5-7. Will be bowl bound in 2027. West Virginia will be 5-0 before that Arizona game. The other guy, Gax, he's declared it. He's also made a prediction on it. Hoosier Dave says West Virginia's schedule looks manageable. All right, guys, let's get to our other big stories of today. We have not even hit our big stories of today because of the breaking news. Bong Mrs. sent high five for 100 jewels. And I cannot highlight that. It won't let me highlight it. But Bong Mrs. sent high five for 100 jewels. I really don't know what that means. But thank you for the gift. Thank you for the gift. Thank you for the support. Bong Mrs. I appreciate it. Appreciate it so very much. Thank you very much. I also want to thank Mohr After Dark, Bill G, Larry Andrick for your donations. I appreciate your support. Okay. Let's get to it, ladies and gentlemen. Heather Dinich earlier this morning, ESPN. The Big Ten athletic directors met last week in Chicago. And a continued connection with the SEC is quietly growing along with the frustration of too many voices trying to fix college athletics. So Heather Dinich is saying that the Big Ten and the SEC are continuing to have this little bit of a connection that is going on right now. We reported to you last week that the Big Ten and the SEC were going to have talks among themselves before their May meetings. Heather Dinich, a future scheduling partnership in football is still on the table. PATC money shot of the article. A scheduling partnership between the Big Ten and the SEC is still on the table. Now, I want you to think about that as we talk about the Notre Dame USC negotiations. I'm not going to go any more into this Heather Dinich article. If you want to hear more of it, we did episode 499. Go to episode 499 and give it a watch. But I just wanted to touch upon this part. A future scheduling partnership in football is still on the table. USC, with the better cards to play in the negotiations with Notre Dame, and that is one reason why. That's an ace. These talks between the SEC and the Big Ten, it's easier for USC to walk away from the table in these negotiations with Notre Dame. The Los Angeles Times, also today, Times of Troy, is the USC versus Notre Dame rivalry back? Negotiations have resumed. Ryan Carty, staff writer, Los Angeles Times, and I apologize if I got the author's name incorrect on this. Again, the architect. Why, Greg? Why is the possible scheduling agreement back on the table? Well, we'll talk about it. 6 months. Again, the Los Angeles Times of this morning. 6 months after one of the college football's most storied rivalries stalled, USC and Notre Dame are in active discussions to resume play. The Times has learned. It's not clear yet when the rivalry series will return or what the terms will be. A person familiar with the discussions, not authorized to talk about them publicly, told the Times that Notre Dame is now willing to discuss playing the game earlier in the season, which had previously been a sticking point. So according to the Los Angeles Times source, Notre Dame, that sticking point, where Notre Dame did not want that USC game to be played early in the season, well, now Notre Dame is willing to discuss playing the game earlier in the season. Given future scheduling agreements, it's possible that the two schools still won't meet again on a football field until 2030. But at least they're back at the bargaining table, and a person familiar with the discussions told the Times that they were optimistic a deal could be reached. Optimism between USC and Notre Dame. That shift in tone comes after a year of both schools playing chicken, which each side refusing to blink during negotiations over the future of the series. USC wanted to move the matchup to the start of the season, in line with the rest of the non-conference schedule, while Notre Dame wanted a long-term agreement to keep the game during the same late season slot in which the series has always been played. Their dispute played out in a series of public relation missives, starting last May when Notre Dame Athletic Director Pete Bavakwas suggested to Sports Illustrated that the rivalry was in jeopardy because USC didn't want to continue it. The two schools were close to an agreement at the end of last season, with USC indicating it was willing to compromise and stick with the rivalry's usual cadence over the next 2 seasons. But a source told the Los Angeles Times that USC officials were not aware of terms in the agreement Notre Dame negotiated with the college football playoff guaranteeing the Irish a playoff berth if they finished in the top 12 of the final rankings. In other words, if Notre Dame finishes 12th in the final rankings, Notre Dame is in the playoffs. If USC is ranked number 12, they're probably not going to be in the playoffs if a G6 participant is rated higher than number 12. So that did not go over well with USC or anybody else for that matter. USC considered that a material advantage to its rival and pulled its offer to Notre Dame. USC Athletic Director Jennifer Cohen made one final offer to continue the series in December, but Notre Dame declined it, immediately announcing a new home-and-home series with Brigham Young to replace the Trojans. And finally, in the article, the fact is very, very clear, and this can all be settled very quickly. Had Notre Dame lived up to their word and play us anytime, anywhere, we would be playing them the next 2 years and looking ahead after that and hopefully continuing the series, USC coach Lincoln Riley said in December after the Trojans bowl loss. They did not follow through on it, thus we are not playing them in the next couple of years. But that hiatus, it turns out, may not last as we once thought. I got a feeling if they were able to make a deal, it's not going to be 2030 that this will start up. It will start up a little bit earlier than that. They'll make it work. They will make it work. The question is these negotiations between USC and Notre Dame, is it really just among those two schools? Or is it a much larger story? Is it a much larger story? Notre Dame's relationship with the ACC is as cold as ice. It's cold. Bavacqua said that the relationship is permanently damaged. Remember when Pete Bavacqua chose those words on the Dan Patrick show? He later walked it back, kind of, sort of. But we have been told by our Notre Dame source and chatter behind the curtain, multiple sources, and it's been out there in public. The relationship between Notre Dame and the ACC is still freezing cold. You talk about Greg the Cooler, the relationship between Notre Dame and ACC is cold. The threats that college football is under, college sports is under, possible silo talk, possible breakaway talk, possible Big Ten and SEC going their own way, together going their own way. All of that impacts Notre Dame. What really impacts Notre Dame is the ACC slipping and sliding a little bit when it comes to their Olympic non-revenue sports. And that has got Notre Dame concerned. Is this part of a larger story? Is the Big Ten kind of giving USC a little bit of a shove, saying, go ahead, negotiate. If you want to get this deal done, okay, get it done. There might be larger talks with Notre Dame down the road. Could this be a part of the evolution of Notre Dame taking their 5 football games in the ACC and switching them over to the Big Ten and putting all their sponsor sports in the Big Ten? You think that's a crazy idea? Do you think it really is? If Notre Dame would do that, they would want to make sure that out of those 5 Big Ten football games, that they had a couple of traditional rival tent poles that make it worth their while. USC could be part of that. They would be part of that, to be honest with you. Is this a much larger story? It's a big story, yes it is. Don't get me wrong, don't get it twisted. Notre Dame and USC still negotiating, back at the table. Notre Dame is willing to say, okay, we'll play you earlier in the season. The history of USC and Notre Dame has always been at the back half of the season, at the end of the season. But USC's world has completely changed. They're in the Big Ten. They're trying to win a Big Ten championship. USC's trying to get to the college football playoffs. USC has a much more difficult schedule than they had in the Pac-12. They would love to play Notre Dame, but again, they've got to have some assurances. I believe our Big Ten source at Peek Around the Corner. Of course I do. We were the ones that were fortunate enough to break the news that Notre Dame's men's hockey program was joining the Big Ten. We were the ones that broke the news that the talks had begun. This is the same Notre Dame source that has told us that Notre Dame and the ACC relationship is cold. This is the same Notre Dame source that has told us that, yes, Notre Dame is open to talking about switching their 5 games with the ACC, the Big Ten. You do not have Pete Sampson and Scott Dockman from The Athletic, both of them making bold predictions that Notre Dame was going to move their 5 conference games, 5 game scheduling with the ACC, the Big Ten. You do not have that happening unless there were truly at least discussions between the Big Ten and Notre Dame. At least discussions. Preliminary discussions. Socializing it. That has happened. And that's a big change. Is all of that making Notre Dame say, you know what? If we're going to, look, this is the question I have to ask all of you. Why? Why is Notre Dame willing to say, okay, we'll play this game early like you want, USC? Why? Well, if Notre Dame is getting ready to get into some true negotiations with the Big Ten, and maybe they've already happened, in where they're going to have 5 games against the Big Ten. Well, you're going to have early games against the Big Ten. And if that's the case, then why keep negotiate? Why keep saying to USC, no, it's got to be late. It's got to be late. No. Notre Dame would come to the realization that we're going to have early Big Ten games. It might as well be with USC. But we want to have USC. Our boosters want it. Our fan base want it. We've got supporters and money in Southern California. I got a feeling that this is potentially part of a bigger story. A story that is not being told quite out in the open yet. Now, maybe nothing will happen with it. Maybe the Big Ten internally will finally say, no, we're not going to have you do this 5-game scheduling with us. Yeah, will give us more money. Yeah, NBC, CBS, and Fox might throw us a few dollars. Notre Dame, we're going to get some more money out of it. But we're not going to do it. We're not going to bend the knee. They probably will. Big Ten probably will. But what I'm saying is, maybe this doesn't happen. But if it was going to happen, wouldn't this be the first step? Getting the Notre Dame USC thing figured out, because Notre Dame would want that. And if USC would get this deal done with Notre Dame, USC would get some they would get something out of this deal. First of all, again, their home games would be, USC makes money when Notre Dame comes into town. But maybe they would get even a little bit more. Anyways, I want your thoughts. I want your comments. Again, give us a phone call, 763-260-1333, 763-260-1333. And remember this, Heather Dinich reporting of earlier today, the SEC and the Big Ten, I'll show it to you. I'm going to show it to you one more time. This morning, ESPN, Heather Dinich reported a future scheduling partnership in football is still on the table between the Big Ten and the SEC. You don't think Notre Dame knows that? You don't think Notre Dame is thinking about that? My goodness, if the Big Ten and the SEC gets a scheduling agreement, it's going to be even more difficult for us to get a game with a Big Ten school, a team that we want to play, which is USC. Notre Dame has already carved out that agreement with Clemson, separate from the ACC, right? Separate from the ACC. They made sure no matter what happens to the ACC, no matter what happens to Clemson, Notre Dame and Clemson has a scheduling agreement. And now Notre Dame sounds like, according to sources, the Los Angeles Times, ready to acquiesce to what USC needs in the deal. And in the back of Notre Dame's mind is the threat of the SEC and the Big Ten football scheduling agreement. Come on, Southeastern Conference playing 9 conference games and a scheduling agreement with the Big Ten. Big Ten playing 9 conference games and a scheduling agreement with the SEC. Less and less room for Notre Dame to get a schedule that they would love, that their fans would love, their boosters would love, and their media partners would love. Again, is this all the reason why that Notre Dame is willing to acquiesce to the USC fight on Trojans? In this particular case, in this particular subject, USC's got the better hand. USC knows it. Notre Dame knows it. PATC Einsteins know it. Let's go to your phone calls. The phone lines are now open. 763-260-1333. You know how it works. If you make a phone call, the floor is yours. If you make a super chat, the floor is yours. We talk about what you want to talk about. We've got a super chat from the one ECU Pirate, Kenneth Maynard. Notre Dame, USC has Vegas on Prime written all over it. But somebody would have to approve that, right? On Notre Dame's end of it, if it's considered a Notre Dame home game, because it's the year, the rotation, they go back and forth, NBC is going to have to work that out with Amazon. If it's a home game, USC home game year on the calendar, you're going to have to work that out with Fox. Or if Amazon becomes the Big Ten media partner by 28, 29, 30, 31, then yes, I can see that. But yeah, those type of games, that is what you'd want to put on Amazon to sell it internationally. I agree with you, Kenneth Maynard. Thank you for the $2 holler. Appreciate your generosity, sir. I appreciate your generosity. Thank you very much. Phone lines are open. Let me see if let me check out the reporting on the Nebraska 18. arbitration case. It went against the football players. It went against the football players. The ruling went against the football players. We've got a breaking news.
Call from
Tristan Fibes.
Tristan, can you hold on for just one moment, please?
Yes, I can.
I appreciate it. Sean Callahan, beat writer, Nebraska Cornhuskers, puts out a statement from Nebraska Director of Athletics, Troy Dannon. I am proud of our football student athletes and how they represented themselves during this process and the patience they have shown. We continue to operate within the parameters of the House settlement and the CSC process while monitoring changes in the collegiate landscape. We fully support all of our student athletes, maximizing their value, name, image, and likeness during their time at the University of Nebraska. We continue to operate within the parameters of the House settlement. So it sounds like Nebraska may stand down, but we'll see what happens with the state law of Nebraska, right? The state law of Nebraska. But again, if Nebraska wants to be a part of this association of all these teams, you know, Nebraska was part of the settlement. Are they going to follow the rules? Are they going to turn to the state government with their state laws? We're going to find out soon enough. Tristan, the floor is yours. Thanks for the call, sir. I appreciate it.
Hey, Greg. Thanks for taking my call. Listen, I wanted to call in and mention this potential scheduling agreement and try and analyze the numbers. So you were saying that the SEC and the Big Ten are both going to be at 9 conference games.
Yep.
And we're talking about 12-game schedule. So here's how I think it could go. I think that when we get a 2014 playoff, the conference championship game is going to go away. And it's going to be replaced by play-in games for AQs. So I think that this is my opinion, no inside information or anything, but I think that week 12 will be replaced by a series of play-in games. So now you're talking about an 11-game regular season, you know, plus the 1 week with the play-ins. And with a 9-game schedule, what that permits is for the SEC schools that have to play in-state rivals, they can have that 1 game preserved and then have another game set aside for playing a Big Ten team. And for any schools that don't have that in-state rivalry that they have to stick to, then they can play 2 Big Ten teams. And I think the Big Ten is going to do the same thing. So that they're going to work it out, Greg, so that the SEC and the Big Ten are only playing each other than those in-state rivalry games. And that is functionally going to be a breakaway. That's a de facto breakaway.
I mean, we still have Big Ten schools and SEC schools scheduling Big 12 and ACC schools beyond the state rivals. For example, Oklahoma State and Michigan State have got now a series scheduled. That was a new one. And I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting idea, and there probably would be some support of what you mentioned about lobbing off that week 12. But I really think they're going to. I really think one of the main selling points on the 2014 playoffs is not to have a CCG and start the playoffs right away. Start that first round right away after everyone's declared, using tiebreakers, conference standings, on who the conference champions are. You've got the seedings 1 through 24. The playoffs are going to start right away. I really don't think there's much talk right now of any type of playing games, any type of conference playing games to determine, even with an AQ model. I don't think, I'm not hearing that right now, but who knows? Who knows, sir? Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking that it seems to me that they're really, even though there's public disagreements, they're trending in the same direction, the Big Ten and the SEC. And I think at the end of the day, they will ultimately be forming a super league. Now, it might be that they need to maintain games against the ACC and the Big 12 for the purposes of, antitrust or whatever. And maybe what you're pointing out is the way it has to be for them, where they do have to have those games. But, I just see them trending in this direction. The silo is the first step, I suppose, if we're still talking about getting that. You just lop off all the games and just play yourself. And then after the silo year or after the silo season or however many seasons it is, you start scheduling with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like they're going in that direction. And Greg, I think the networks are like dangling a carrot and saying, look, if you guys can get to this destination, you'll be maximizing your revenue. Because no one wants to see LSU play, Northwest Louisiana State. No one wants to see Michigan playing Central Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I think they have to go through this process, like there's different phases where they take these incremental baby steps towards the end goal.
Interesting. Yep.
Yeah. So, and I also wanted to mention this. Now, I haven't heard it, Greg, and you may have talked about this, but did you hear that Miami is no longer in the Super Bowl rotation?
Yes, I did hear that.
Okay. They recently, and I say recently, I think it's like within the last 4 or 5 seasons, they recently upgraded whatever the stadium is that the Dolphins play in. And they invested like $300 or $400 million in that. There was a debate as to whether or not they should just buy a brand new stadium or upgrade that one, and whoever was making the decision chose to upgrade the current stadium. So here's why I'm bringing this up, Greg. If the Hurricanes play their cards right, they can get a new stadium out of this.
And how's that?
I've got my fingers crossed for the Hurricanes, Greg. Because there's no more money to be spent on that Dolphin stadium.
Yeah.
They've upgraded it.
That's true. Yeah.
And the NFL has just said, look, we're not playing games there. It no longer offers what we need. Okay, that region or that area. If they went back to Miami with a real honest to goodness modern stadium that's close enough to Miami Hurricanes that they could call it their home stadium. Doesn't have to be right there on the campus. The state of Florida would back this, Greg. I think they would move mountains to make it happen. I think there's too much economic activity or economic value to having the Super Bowl to let that go. They got to keep that in the rotation, Greg. I think they're going to work. I'm hoping that they're going to work together to get a stadium built down there, and it's going to belong to the Hurricanes. What do you think?
I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. I haven't really. I have not poked and prodded on the stadium issue for a long time, so I'm going to write myself a note. I mean, it's logical what you're saying, right?
Yeah,
it's valid. I can understand. I can understand that. But I don't have any. I really have no opinion on it. I'm going to try to get one though. All right.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a new idea.
Yeah, it is.
So
it's interesting.
Yeah. As soon as I heard the story, I started thinking, man, you know what? They're not going to spend any more money on that Dolphin stadium. And I know the Hurricanes have been trying to raise funds or trying to work out a way to get a stadium. This is their golden ticket, man. This is the opportunity. They got to act on this.
Yeah.
So, hey, listen, that's all I had for you, Greg. You keep up the good work, and I'll talk to you later.
You got it, buddy. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks for the
Bye-bye.
call. Beautiful. Rock and Rant says the issue is they put the F1 tracks and the tennis in, so they have too much space taken away from the hospitality needs for a Super Bowl. That's the only reason why they're no longer in the Super Bowl rotation. Thank you, Rock and Rant, for that comment. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Call from
Jeff Fuller.
Jeff Fuller, thanks for calling. BYU Cougar, the floor is yours.
Hey, Greg. Thanks for taking my call. Always love listening. Listen when I can and catch most of your stuff. So, the idea of a silo is probably potentially earth-shattering. What you're saying now. You say the ruling on the Nebraska players makes it less likely that the SEC sort of has the gunpowder to have less of a reason to break away because the CSC is able to enforce some things.
Well, first of all, I'm hoping that it does. Hopefully it takes a little bit of air out of the tire, so to speak. But I don't know. That's my first blush. That's my first take on it. I might change that take. You would think.
Yeah, and I don't know. Go ahead.
No, you would think it would. It would. Now, if it would have went the other way, I think it would have added fuel to that fire. I'm thinking this is probably takes the air out of the steam a little bit.
Yeah, so maybe it delays, but if there's and that's sort of the bigger question, as someone who's watching from the outside, sort of seeing this slow motion, potentially, the cynic in some of us sees, the SEC and the Big Ten, they really want to break away. They really want to do their own thing. They wrested control of the playoff and said, hey, we're doing this if you don't give us the power. And that was behind closed doors, and, reports came out later. But the cynics that aren't part of the club, I guess you could say, in the Big Ten and the SEC, they're just these two are sort of slow playing, this orchestrated drama of how do we break away without looking like the bad guys and not being able to be blamed and sued in the process. Hey, we'll disagree in public on the format of the playoff. We'll disagree on whether player, how are we going to institute a cap or not? What was the Big Ten came out a couple months ago and said, we want there to be no enforcement on tampering. Tampering is no longer a thing, so no one can be punished for tampering. That was, and the SEC like, oh no, we're not going to do that. So all these sort of semi-public spats between the two, and I'm not. I know it almost sounds conspiracy level to say, this is fully orchestrated. This is just a way that it's, but the silo. What I'm wondering is, you keep saying that if the SEC goes to their silo, the Big Ten has to go to their silo, and that's where I'm like, where does that come from? I mean, the SEC, if they go into a silo, they're leaving the NCAA. At what point do people say, hey, that's just one conference that's left? We don't have to invite them to the NCAA tournament in basketball. They've got some good basketball teams, but they've got Kentucky and Florida, some pretty major brands, and it would suck to not have them. But could a champion not be crowned without them? And if there truly is this animosity and this struggle and this who's going to be king among the two big conferences there, does the Big Ten just see this as an opportunity to say, well, we can join our forces with some of the other powers that be that aren't the SEC the SEC is a regional conference. That's their strength and their weakness. But if they sort of do their own thing in football, only schedule each other, don't schedule outside, don't play cross-conference games, if they truly silo, if people on the outside play hardball and just say, have fun in your silo, and that's why I'm like, does this get rewarded if someone says, well, I'm just going to take my ball and go home? Do we go over to them and say, we're sorry, hey, let us play with you? And that's sort of what the Big Ten would be doing if they say, well, hey, not only are we going to silo, but hey, let's have a scheduling agreement. Hey, down the road, it's no longer illegal that we pool our media rights. We can pool our media rights as two conferences when, the whole impetus for doing that from the start was, to try to get bigger groups, potentially a super large super conference or a Saving College Sports, whatever, Cody Campbell plan. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of any of those ideas. I think conferences could work together in their current structures with different levels of payout and different levels of relevancy, but just to, to collectively bargain the media rights where people can make a lot more money. And there's, I know people argue and, the media companies say there's no more money, have fun. If you pull your rights, we're not going to pay you anymore. We've talked about this several times, but that's sort of the interesting thing is if all this happens and then the ones who end up using the pooling of the rights are the Big Ten and the SEC in a pseudo super conference because they both siloed and then they make scheduling agreements with each other. Have they come to this without, quote unquote, looking like the bad guys who wanted this all along and orchestrating this behind the scenes? Just my conspiracy level. I do recall that with the President Trump meeting a month and a half, 2 months ago, something that got almost no play, but I think I don't watch the Monty Show, but I think someone called and said, hey, the Monty Show said that, hey, the SEC and the Big Ten, they met either prior to or after this meeting, and they're still talking behind the scenes.
Yes,
that
is true.
And so why isn't that being talked about? That is there this sort of orchestration that's going on? So I just love to hear your response to that, and why wouldn't the Big Ten see this as an opportunity to say, hey, we're the national conference. If we draw in, if we don't, instead of, expanding with 4 to 6 more teams, and that's our silo, hey, hey, Big 12, hey, hey, ACC, let's see what we can do together as, and still not be a risk of having a true monopoly and antitrust. I think that would be the fear is that too much? But with the SEC doing their own thing and all the other levels of college football, could those 3 conferences, I hate to say the word alliance with that history, but, does that triangulate the SEC? And, I hate to reward the behavior of taking your ball and going home and saying, we're not going to play. I see the Big Ten sort of playing into that hand, and why would they want to do that?
Yeah. I'll take your answer off there. How about that? I'll respond to your call. I appreciate it, Mr. Fuller.
Yes, sir. All right.
Beautiful call.
Have a good one.
Beautiful.
All right.
I think Mr. Fuller talked to a lot of people there. I happen to think, and I could be wrong, but I happen to think that a lot of this is not really a coordinated effort between the two. I don't think they're so smart to make it look so confusing. I don't think they're smart enough to make it look like they're battling each other and they're flipping good cop and bad cop every other week. And I don't think this is a coordinated effort. I truly believe that the Big Ten, along with the SEC, wants to maximize their dollars. And their schools are acting like, if you're a public company and basically your decisions revolve around that stock price so you can maintain for your stockholders. So in the SEC, those 16 schools are the stockholders. In the Big Ten, the 18 schools are the stockholders. And they're doing things that are trying to get them the best value coming back. Every decision is based upon that. So in the Big Ten, they believe a big old 2014 playoffs, their media companies being able to have those games on, being able to distribute those games, getting more money, more impact, CBS, NBC, Fox become more important in the college football world. That's a benefit to the Big Ten. I don't think the Big Ten is looking at going their own silo like the SEC is. I don't think they're on the same track. I think the Big Ten is getting ready to flip onto that track if they need to. And of course, the Big Ten was with the SEC and threatening the Big 12 and the ACC. If you don't go our way, if you don't give us the power for us to form the college football playoffs. But, so on one hand, I say that. I don't think they're smart enough to coordinate it like they're coordinated where nobody seems like the bad guy at the end of the day. But on the other hand, to take Jeff Fuller's position, like Heather Dinich reported today, it seems like the connection is now getting closer and closer. It seems like the Big Ten is feeding out the SEC's frustration and not being able to govern these 68 schools, and so I can see it both ways. Maybe not a coordinated effort, but their interests do at some point align with each other, right? Just like the college football playoffs. There is a vast disagreement, though, led by ESPN and Fox in regards to the college football playoffs. There's probably other disagreements. There definitely is other disagreements. All I can say is, I'm personally against the silo. I'm personally against the breakaway as a college football fan. By the way, the host of College Football Peek Around the Corner, I got to talk about it because it is part of the heavy chatter that is going on right now. And I'm hoping, as Jeff Fuller brought up early in the phone call, that this arbitration case takes the steam out of it somewhat. But again, I just saw a report as Mr. Fuller was talking, Kessler, the lawyer, they're going to take it to court. They're going to take the decision to court. Like, nobody ever really takes a loss anymore. Like, nobody, for the good of the association. Nebraska's probably going to battle this all the way to the courts. The state government's going to get involved. Woo! It's the same old thing. It's like nobody wants to get along with each other. Everybody wants to play the victim. This ruling doesn't just go against Nebraska 18. It goes against a lot of players across the country. This was just a representation of that argument. This is not a shot against Nebraska. It's a shot against a whole bunch of players. Their NIL deal is not going to come back. It's going to stay denied. But again, it's like, that's why there's a part of me that really doesn't believe we're ever going to get our act straight. I don't care what you, these schools, the underbelly of college football is to not follow the rules. It's to try to shortcut. It's to challenge. It's to take a lawyer, go to court. I don't even care. I'm at the point, bring in a CBA, bring in everything. We're all still going to go to court against each other because that's who we are. We are what we are. It's the schools. It ain't the NCAA. We created the NCAA. We created the CSC because of the settlement. We had to do this settlement because we were under the thumb of the House and the arguments in the courts because we were going to lose. We were going to lose. because we had not been paying the student athletes the money that they should have been getting for the longest time. Like, it's us. We're the problem. We're the problem. And I don't think we ever are going to ever follow any damn rules. Literally. Because we have a problem. Just my 2 cents. We got a very couple of kind super chats here. We got the Evil Badger, $5 holla, $5 holla super Ryan Willie. Evil Badger, with the possible scheduling agreement, Notre Dame should just join the Big Ten. On the other subject, Greg is so cold, he causes the polar vortex every winter. Yes, I am the reason. I am the reason for the polar vortex. Thank you very much, Evil Badger. I'm glad you're having fun, Ryan Willie. I'm glad you're having fun. But you guess what? You Badgers are spending way too much time with those Buckeyes. You evil Badgers are spending way too much time being influenced by Mohr and those evil Buckeyes. You better separate from each other. You better separate from each other. And we've got a $2 holler super chat from the Purple and Gold. Whoops. My bad. Purple and Gold, Christopher Hooter. Christopher Hooter, silos come in light, medium, or heavy, I guess. Thank you for the $2 holler, Christopher Hooter. Again, look. Does this Nebraska 18 arbitration case that went for the CSC take a little bit of the air out of the tire for Golden Silos? Maybe just a little bit, but that air, that tire is going to get filled up pretty quick, I think, because the SCORE Act has got to pass. And there's reports that the SCORE Act is going to be reintroduced to the House through some subcommittee. The vote is going to take place, and they're just trying to get it passed in the House. So then it kicks over the Senate, and then according to some optimistic reporting, Maria Cantwell and Ted Cruz are going to get together. They have some sort of working arrangement that they're going to make a big compromise. The Senate bill is going to look a lot different than the House bill. Then that's going to pass. Somehow it's going to pass, get kicked over the House, and we're going to have kumbaya. The chances of that is very, very small. And if the SCORE Act doesn't pass, any air that went out of the tires is going to get pumped right back into it. And we're going to be talking silo. Again, according to Heather Dinich's reporting of this morning. Thank you for the $2 holler, Christopher Cooter. Thank you for your generosity. I very much appreciate it, sir. Thank you very much. Heather Dinich talking about the meetings that are going on. Let's see here. The Big Ten will meet May 18th to May 20th in Rancho Palos Verdes, just outside of Los Angeles. Again, we're going to keep a close eye on that. That is in 1 week from today. 1 week from today, the Big Ten meetings begin. And then, of course, the SEC meetings, May 26th to 28th in the Hilton Sandestin Beach Golf Resort and Spa in Miramar Beach, Florida. So, again, May 18th to May 20th, May 26th to May 28th. Big Ten and SEC meetings. So hopefully we get more information on the college football playoff format. We get more information on the SEC's threat to go silo. More information on anything dealing with college football. On the SCORE Act and everything else. So, again, we have said this. May is going to be a very, 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 very busy month. We are on May 11th, and it's already been a crazy month. We're coming on live every single day. I do appreciate you all joining us and your support. Thank you for the $2 holler Robert gives. I appreciate it. Thank you for the $2 holler. Grateful Trojan. Careful driving in Rancho Palos Verdes. Tigers roams those roads every now and then. The NCAA runs college football. Jason Spangler, not really. We run college football. We created the NCAA. In fact, the NCAA really runs the basketball. They have less and less to do with football than ever before. We run college football. The schools run college football. We are the NCAA. The NCAA being used as a boogeyman doesn't work anymore. Kansas runs college football. Minnesota runs college football. USC, Notre Dame, LSU. Can't be used as the boogeyman anymore. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank, I do want to thank Mohr After Dark, Bill G, Larry Andrick, Kenneth Maynard, Eva Badger, Christopher Hooter, and Robert Gibbs for your donations. I appreciate it very much. Without those donations, we can't do this every single day. So thank you so very much for your generosity. I want to thank the phone callers, the people in the chat room. Thank you for keeping your head on a swivel and let me know there was big breaking news. Nebraska 18 lost, CSC 1. For now, we'll see what happens in the future. Buckle up and brace for impact. We're not even midway through the month of May, and the last part of May is going to be dramatic. Until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please you all take great care of each other, and our prayers go out to Ahmed Hardy, the great running back of Missouri, got shot in the upper leg at a rap concert in Mississippi, right? In Mississippi. It looks like he's getting up and around. It looks like his football career is not over. But more importantly, Ahmed Hardy, please, please, please recover from that violent act. Hopefully you're going to be okay. Our prayers go out to you. Until next time, please take care of each other. Thank you so very much. God, family.